Jason Davis.
Good morning, everybody. Excuse me. Terrible way to start the show on a Tuesday. My voice just decided to not cooperate right off the top of the program. Wow. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into Soccer Morning. We are live on worldsoccertalk.com. We are... yeah, that's a little Nick Nolte for you. Oh, man. I don't know. I could feel the tickle in my throat as we were going live. That is a broadcaster's worst nightmare. Well, maybe not worst nightmare, but definitely up there. You're getting through that portion of the program, and we'll get it better and get it right, and I promise. On this program today, our good friend David Cartlidge Liga will join us. We'll talk about the first match day in La Liga, one that threw up a mild surprise, well, a pretty significant surprise in the case of Real Madrid, who played to a scoreless draw with Sporting Gijon in the opening match of their season under new head coach, new manager Rafa Benitez. We'll talk to David about some issues there. Clearly not getting off to the right foot. Barcelona a winner, Atletico Madrid a winner, Villarreal with a draw in their first match. We'll get into all of that with David Cartlidge in just a couple of minutes. We do have a host of headlines on a Tuesday morning, so let's just go ahead and dive straight into those. Yesterday in the Premier League, a big early season clash between Arsenal and Liverpool at the Emirates. We got exactly 0 goals out of it. Now, that did not necessarily mean that the game was boring or lacked entertainment. Peter Cech and Simone Mignolet put on a show, especially Cech, with a couple of big saves to keep his side in the game. He's showing off why Arsenal decided to sign him from Chelsea this summer, bring him in and bolster their goalkeeping. Champions League qualifier second leg today in many places, including Malmo hosting Celtic, down a goal 3-2. Celtic has the aggregate lead there. Monaco versus Valencia, the French side attempting to turn over a 3-1 deficit. We'll talk to David Cartlidge about Valencia's chances today to hold on to that lead. Dinamo Zagreb against Skinderbo. Still the weirdest name in the tournament. 2-1. Dinamo Zagreb has a lead as they go back home and attempt to wrap that up. Shakhtar Donetsk versus Rapid Vienna. 1-0 lead to Shakhtar in that tie. Maccabi Tel Aviv and FC Basel tied 2-2 as they go down to Tel Aviv. CONCACAF Champions League tonight as well. DC United hosting Montego Bay United, Jamaican side Saprissa, against Santos Laguna. That's a big clash. Costa Rica versus Mexico. Municipal of Guatemala and Santa Tecla of El Salvador also facing off in the CONCACAF Champions League group stage on a Tuesday night. A couple of more interesting. Hold on. Jurgen Klinsmann bemoaning the fact that he needs club support to get players released for the Olympic qualifying tournament, which begins on October 1st. That's rapidly approaching. The FIFA window, doesn't open until October 5th. That's the window in which the U.S. will play Mexico in that playoff match to get into the Confederations Cup for 2017. But when it comes to the younger players who will be featuring in that U23 squad under Andy Herzog, attempting to make the Olympics in Rio de Janeiro in 2016, lots of issues. This has been a problem for coaches at this level for many cycles, including Caleb Porter back in 2012. We'll see exactly who gets released and who doesn't. There's a bunch of names who will be MLS attached with their teams going down the stretch of the season, needing points to make sure that they're both in the playoffs and consolidating their playoff position. And then obviously some European-based players who will be tied up with clubs who may not want to release them as well. The president of the AFL-CIO, Mario Cilento, has urged the New York officials in charge of picking a project for the Belmont site to go with the Cosmos Stadium plan. The letter asks for swift action from Empire State Development President Howard Zemsky. Yes, that's right. Howard Zemsky. So Mr. Cilento is asking Mr. Zemsky to go ahead and greenlight the project for the Cosmos. If you remember correctly, they've been working on this deal for many years. They've had their bid in on a site which is just there at the Belmont track on the border between Queens and Long Island. This is This is a project that the Cosmos have hung their hat on, so to speak. The next step in their development as an American soccer club is to get this stadium built. It's a $400 million project. We all remember the renderings of this stadium. They are quite fantastic. If the Cosmos can get this done, it elevates them to a different level in the American soccer sphere, without a doubt. This is a project, again, that has been talked about for a couple of years now without any movement on the part of the New York officials, New York State officials, and it has gone so far that the Cosmos have talked about looking for alternative sites to build a stadium, although that may have been something of a bluff. I don't know exactly who else has bids on this site, but I would imagine that the stadium is one of the more expansive attempts to get something done there in Elmont, New York. Reports indicate that Tottenham Hotspur fullback and U.S. international DeAndre Yedlin has loan interest from at least 6 clubs across Europe, including 3 teams in the championship, at least one Spanish side, perhaps a few other continental European sides as well. Yedlin has not yet made a matchday squad under Mauricio Pochettino for Spurs. Remember, he moved over from the Seattle Sounders last winter, stayed on loan through the end of the Sounders season, and is now attempting to make his mark with Spurs in the Premier League. He needs to get playing time. He's a player who absolutely has to be on the field, not only for his continued development, but if he's going to be a part of the U.S. men's national team, which he has taken a lead role, or not a lead role, but he's taken a role in that team under Jurgen Klinsmann. You got an October and a very important match coming up in October, and then you got your World Cup qualifiers coming around. If Yedlin's going to be part of those teams, he needs to be on the field. He needs to be playing. He needs to be getting reps, hopefully at fullback, although whether or not Jurgen Klinsmann sees him as a fullback going forward remains to be seen. Certainly seems as though Spurs are going to keep him in that particular position. All right. We're going to talk some La Liga with David Cartlidge in just a minute. We're going to talk clearly about Valencia in the Champions League. We'll talk Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, his pick to win the La Liga title this season. The underdogs in Spain have gotten themselves off to a very interesting start, especially Sporting Gijón, who holds Real Madrid goalless in their opener. Let's step aside. We'll get David on the line. I'll get rid of the Nick Nolte voice. We'll come back. We'll do some soccer stuff. Soccer Morning. WorldSoccerDoc.com.
Face in the crowd. You're talking too loud. But I can't hear you calling.
This Sunday, it's the return of MLS Rivalry Week as the New York Red Bulls take on DC United live on Fox Sports 1 at 7 p.m. Eastern. For a different experience, I'd like to invite you to mute the TV and listen to me on Rabble.tv as I share my thoughts and analysis live during the 90 minutes. With Rabble, the concept is simple. All you have to do is tune into the broadcast on TV, press the mute button, and then head on over to Rabble.tv to listen to the broadcast on your desktop, through your iOS app, and now through your mobile browser. You can join in too by posting your questions or observations in the comments section. And if you have an iPhone, install the Rabble TV app and add a comment to the broadcast message board, then listen live via the app. Or else you create your own broadcast, call one of your team's games. It's easy. Sign up for free today and try it out. Join me this Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern for Red Bulls against DC on Rabble.tv, where it's your team and your call.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
All right, here we are on a Tuesday. My voice is finally recovered. Let's talk some La Liga with our good friend David Cartlidge. You can follow him on Twitter at David JACA. He is an editor at BN Sport, covers Spanish and European football for many a place. How are you, David?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to have the league back.
It is nice to have the league back. We've got one match day done, and I think the headline we'll touch on a bunch of games here, maybe some big picture items in terms of a lack of scoring around the league. But the big picture is your club held Real Madrid to a goalless draw in their opener. That's huge. That's gonna be huge for Gijón, but really bad for Real Madrid under Rafa Benitez.
Like I said, I told everyone to get behind this little club, and they put. I think they showed why they might earn a few new fans this season. They're fighters, they're battlers, and they got Rafa Benitez off on the wrong foot. The last thing he wanted, it was always going to be a tricky trip, I think, for Rafa to have that on the first day. He wouldn't have wanted that, and you saw why. Sporting made it really difficult. They defended well. They defended numbers, but you know what? They attacked Real Madrid as well, and they tried to give them a scare as well. They got in their faces. They were physical. They were quick, aggressive, and all positive aggression. There was nothing really much dirty about the way they played, and it just wasn't an ideal first day at the office for Rafa Benitez.
Well, let's focus on Madrid before we turn it over and talk about the underdogs and the little club that could. Rafa was, an interesting choice for Real Madrid to take over that job. Clearly, there's only so many so many managers in the world who might fit at that club. Is he going to fit in the end? We've talked about this, David. Is this also a situation where Rafa's philosophy is going to clash with not only the talent he has in that team, but also what the supporters and the directors of Real Madrid are expecting?
Oh, absolutely. There's massive concern already about the potential style clash, shall we say, because Ancelotti finally found this fluid football, this fluid, attractive football. It wasn't just counter-attacking football, it was the total package, counter-attacking, and when they had possession as well, and it was beautiful. And then now Rafa has to start with his measures, and it's not going to suit, but he's going to sell the results factor to people, and he has to get the results. So the fact that he didn't get the result on the first day, it doesn't help by any means, because that's what's being sold here by the club and by Rafa. It's a results game. We're going to get the results that matter. Where Ancelotti slipped up, I'm not going to slip up, and this is not an ideal start.
What is the most obvious outward sign of Benitez changing what Ancelotti did last season?
Yeah, I think the issue that is coming into play is how Gareth Bale is used. Already, there is apparently discontent in the dressing room with the attention that he is getting in terms of the team is being maybe built around him, built for him. And apparently today, somebody like James Rodriguez, and there are others as well, have voiced their concerns. They're like just a little bit protrude by this. Why is Bale getting so much attention? Why is the team being built around him? So I think the system is very, very much generated towards Gareth Bale's strengths, which is an odd one in a sense.
So at this point, we had a little bit of rumor around Ronaldo and his future. Unlikely anything was ever going to happen, and probably still won't with a couple of days left in the transfer window. But at least it was a little bit of discord, maybe a little bit of question about the future of Real Madrid. When Ronaldo leaves, that's obviously going to be a transition. Now they've bought players with a lot of money, Bale and James Rodriguez coming to the forefront here. But are they going to be transitioning? Do you imagine that this will be the type of year that could start to sow those seeds, that show those cracks? Maybe not just because of Benitez, but because Ronaldo may move on soon, that there is just going to be a sort of, again, discontent within a squad that, is not that far away, removed from some serious success, but has gone through a lot of changes.
Yeah, exactly. That's how the picture is set up right now. He has to appease everybody in this. So it's quite surprising the attacks have started so early. And these are reports coming from us and Marca, they are both pushing this story that the main dailies in Madrid, they are pushing this story that James and Ronaldo are upset with Benitez's plans. But yes, there is a longer game in mind. They're going to have to. Is he the man who is being tasked with the transition of Real Madrid? So if Ronaldo does leave, then they are in a better position. Okay, but then it comes the bigger question: is Rafa Benitez the right man? Is he a good enough manager? Has he got enough acumen to actually do that? That becomes that. So not only is he the man to bring back success instantly, but is he the man who's going to actually be who takes part in this transition? I'm really, really unsure about that.
Is it too early to wonder if Ronaldo is going to hit the beginning of his decline? I mean, he's crested 30 years old now. I obviously this is a little sensationalistic, but I go over to Marca's English language page and the headline screams Ronaldo is struggling. Is this going to be indicative of something that he's going to have to go through and adjust his game, or is this just a blip?
I just think there's a process of him changing his game up. He's going to have to be more. I think he's not going to be involved as much, and people have to become used to that. He doesn't beat players anymore. For skill, he doesn't. He won't knock the ball around people anymore. It just isn't his game. He's about movement off the ball, getting in the right position so he can get his head on a Marcelo cross or a James Rodriguez cross. That's what his game is about now. It isn't him picking it up on the halfway line and then darting past 3 or 4 players and driving in and scoring like he used to back at Manchester United. And he did show Real Madrid as well, of course. It isn't about that. So I think people need to be understanding of that. But I mean, I wouldn't call this a struggle. Again, it's just adjusting to a new system, and I think he's adapting himself as well to a new type of game as an individual.
All right, again, I do want to talk about Lyon here in a second, but Karim Benzema has been linked to Arsenal pretty strongly throughout the summer. I know he Instagrammed a picture of or tweeted a picture, whatever that was. I'm having issues today. Declaring, hold on one second. Wow. Declaring himself a Real Madrid player and indicating he's not making a move. Does that put anything to rest, or is there still some rumor here as the transfer window winds down?
No, that puts it to rest, at least until I think next summer. I don't even think January is a possibility. I think that's pretty much done it. And it's interesting as well that he did the tweet. He did it in English as well. He didn't bother even doing a Spanish version. He just did it in English because a lot of this has come from the English side. It has come from the English press, I think, creating things. People on Twitter creating things, and I think it was the perfect way to shut everything down and just say, look, I'm staying here. And I think that was the perfect way to do it. I think maybe more players should do that. That's my opinion. So
yeah,
but yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your team, David. Let's talk about this team you're employing people to get behind. Again, coming up from the Segunda, obviously, one of those clubs. There's a very romantic notion of punching above their weight. Give me a sense of who these players are and where they come from, because I think that's more interesting sometimes in a place like Spain than it would be in the championship coming up to a championship side coming up to the Premier League. Or a Bundesliga, 2 Bundesliga side coming up. There's something usually very local. Is that the case here?
Yeah, extremely. It really is. And that's exactly what it's based on. It's the Murillo Academy. It's where David Villa came through. Players like Ian Kearney came through, one of the most famous strikers in Spain of all time. Some say the greatest. People like that have come through. And of this current squad, 16 have played in the B team. And then there's many, many more come through the actual academy, and there's even more come from the region, from Asturias, which is in northern Spain. Very much a different area of Spain. It's not really, big sandy beaches and lots of sun. It's a green place. There's lots of green. There's lots of hills. There's lots of cows. It's a different area of Spain. It's a bit more rougher, a bit more salt of the earth type thing. And you have that with the manager, and you have that a lot of their players as well. The best way I can describe this really is growing up in your city, in your area, in your state, and ending up playing for the club of your state, and that's a dream for all these players. And right now, that's what this club's just based about. It's fantastic. It's not just a few kids, bulking up the squad. The squad is made up of kids. That's what it's about. Who have come through the academy. It's an average age of 23. It's the youngest team in the Spanish top flight. And I haven't looked, but I'd assume in the top 5 leagues it would be one of the youngest, if not the youngest.
Well, there you go. So Gijon gets a good start with a scoreless draw against one of the giants of Spain. Let's talk about the other usual contender for the La Liga title, and that's Barcelona. They scraped by with a victory in their opening match against Athletic Bilbao, who they had obviously lost in the Spanish Super Cup. Some measure of revenge there. Look, 3 points in the league more important than that Super Cup, I imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was good for them to go on the right foot, and especially after the manner of that loss in the Super Cup. I think it was a trophy. It was disappointing because they won the second title. That was a big thing for them. But like I said, Luis Enrique will be, come on, let's just get on with this. But it's gone now. Let's just not dwell on it. Let's go to the next game. And it happened to be Athletic. Let's win that game, and they did, and that's that.
And again, in the opening weekend, all you really want to do is make sure that you get off to a good start. So Real Madrid struggling out of the gates, Barcelona with the win. Atleti, your pick to win this title this year over Las Palmas, another team that just came up. An Atleti 1-0 win, probably less remarkable than a Barcelona 1-0 win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the issue with Atleti is they've got a lot more players coming in. There's a new system in place there, and again they're just adjusting. It's like Real Madrid. The two Madrid teams might take a little bit longer to get up to speed, which could play an advantage with Barca. Although they do have their own problems. Barcelona, of course, with the sport becoming thinner by the week. But with Atleti, they've got a new system. They're learning every week. I think Jackson really struggled up front, and he got took off, and he got a bit of abuse on the radio from some commentators on the night. But I think again, it's just patience, just letting time till the system sets in on the players. Basically,
there were a lot of the only team to win by more than one goal is Eibar over Granada. We can talk about that if you want, but everybody else was either one goal in it or a draw, and you had a goalless draw with Gijon and Madrid. We just talked about Rayo Vallecano and Valencia, no goals. Deportivo La Coruña and Real Sociedad, no goals. Malaga and Sevilla, no goals. Why are there no goals, David? Where are the goals?
I think again, Spain is a league where the turnover of players is so high. And you've got a lot of new players, and again, systems are changing as well. And then you've got special cases such as Sevilla and Valencia, who are in Europe and have got one eye on them on there at the moment, especially Valencia with their playoff in Monaco. So I think they're thinking ahead a little bit on the different things. So and then, but again, the main thing is the turnover of players. There's so many new players on these clubs. I mean, Eibar pretty much had I think it was 9 or 10 new players out. I know they won, but still, it's adjusting to that, and it's these surroundings and new players and getting in there. It's going to take a few weeks before the league gets off, before it starts all guns blazing. There's no real chemistry between a lot of these players at different clubs, apart from obviously Barcelona. They're all familiar with each other.
Is there any way to combat that, or is that not really an issue? Everybody just kind of accepts the fact that this league is going to start a little slower because of those chemistry issues, or is there a sense that, hey, maybe we shouldn't allow the window to stay open so long? I mean, that's obviously not just up to Spain. They want to be able to compete with everybody else, but is it a problem?
I think the ideal thing would be the window opening earlier and then shutting before the league starts.
Yeah.
I mean, the league starts so late anyway, so that's it's going to be hard. It's a hard one to get around, basically. But yeah, I think you just accept it and get on with it, basically. And teams will do the best they can in their preseason games and the training sessions they have. Some have had double sessions. David Moyes of Real Sociedad had triple sessions with some of his players. So you do your best like that to get up to speed.
Let's talk a little bit about Valencia. They start the season with that scoreless draw, or goalless draw against Rayo Vallecano, which is probably a little disappointing for them. And they're in the Champions League group stage qualifier against Monaco. They've taken a lead in that tie. The second leg is today. Any reason to think that they won't be able to just go ahead and hold on to that and make their way into the tournament proper?
Yeah, I mean, for one, they're away from home, and that was a little problem for them last season. At times, they really struggled away from home. In terms of finding the system, I still think they're doing that as well. Nuno Espirito Santo, their coach, he's still trying to perfect their away system. What was such a big problem. This is a test straight away right at the start of the season to see if they have matured and this system is better. So we'll get to see that. And Valencia as well, another main issue is they've lost Nicolas Otamendi. So right now they've got young Ruben Veso in the back line alongside Mustafi, who has been fantastic. The German Mustafi has been fantastic in both official games so far. So there's a few concerns there. Centre back, the fact that they don't have a proper player in there yet, and of course in their away system. So Monaco will try it, especially somebody like Anthony Martial, who gave them a lot of problems in the first leg. He will run at them and try to cause big issues for that back line.
Well, you mentioned Otamendi moving on. This is, again, we talked about the transfer window being open through the start of the season for everybody in Europe. We obviously have Champions League clubs trying to make their way. Again, Valencia trying to do this here. One of the things that has been bouncing around recently is this ridiculous notion that Neymar is open to a move to Manchester United. Is this flat out a contract negotiating ploy? Is there any hint at all that Neymar would move on after joining Barcelona so recently?
They're just trying to. I think it's trying to be. Somebody's trying to give this story legs by saying he maybe wants to be the front man. He wants to be the main man of the club, and obviously with Messi there and Suarez, he can't be that. And I think that's trying to get sold to keep the story alive. If you didn't have that, then I don't think there'd be anything in this. It's just another rubbish story with a player being linked to Manchester United based on not a lot really. Like it has gone all summer. Sergio Ramos, Thomas Muller, Marco Reus. We could name 15, 20 players right now who have been linked to Manchester United this summer and who haven't joined.
Well,
Neymar is just another
one of those players who was surplus at Barcelona a bit, not exactly, but certainly wasn't going to get as much playing time as he would have liked is Pedro. And Manchester United was in for Pedro, and ultimately they don't get him. He goes to Chelsea. He wows on his debut. How much of a loss will that be for Barcelona? Obviously, he's not one of the leading figures in that club, but he has served an important role during his time there. How much of a loss to Barcelona is he?
Yeah, he's a big loss. He's a very honest player. Personality-wise, he's very well liked. Like I say, he's very honest. He's very humble. People really, really like him. As a player on the field, he's a really big loss, because if you lose one of those guys, one of your three main guys, then Pedro was the perfect person to come in. It was a really nice thing that Barcelona had to have somebody like Pedro come in, because he's brilliant at doing that. He's good at coming in cold. There's not many players can do that. Come straight off the bench and produce, whether it be defend, help shore up a lead, or whether you say, oh, look, I need an extra goal. Pedro, you go and create some runs out there. You go and carry the ball, or you go and make a run off somebody, create some space for Messi or Neymar. And he's such a great player to have like that. So then losing Barcelona, losing Pedro is it's a big loss. And Luis Enrique is going to have to look around and say, all right, well, how can I make up for this?
It's the next round of matches. Do you see anything there of particular interest? It just occurred to me that Barcelona is without Gerard Piqué at the moment because of his incident with the referee. How much of an impact will that have on their first couple of matches here?
Yeah, again, it's about systems and it's about familiarity, like what we've just been speaking of, and about not finding goals, and it works as well, of course, for conceding them. And with Piqué not there, it just takes a little bit of familiarity about it. It's an extra test. Marc Bartra hasn't really looked anything special lately either, so it's a big concern for that. So hopefully Bartra can maybe get some minutes, get some confidence, and they can deal with this if Piqué drops out, because Piqué is prone to a suspension or an odd lapse in the head, I think, sometimes. So they've got to account for that. But looking at the next games, I think the one which jumps off the page straight away is Sevilla versus Atletico Madrid. That's a great one on Sunday. That's just a huge game.
And Atletico Madrid, again, I mean, 1-0 winners, that really won't faze them too much. This is a club that has had some departures because they have not been able to, they just can't compete financially with Real Madrid and Barcelona, and yet they have managed to stay competitive. And again, you come on this show and you've picked them to win the league. What do you need to see from Atleti, especially in say the first month of the season, to be sure that they're going to have enough under Diego Simeone to be champions again?
Yeah, they just need to offer. I think the new signings need to offer need to show encouraging signs. That was the problem apparently Simeone had last season. He thought the players that were brought in were not good enough, and then he had to make do with the players that he had and the system that he had, and he couldn't really do much. This season it's different. He's got the players that he wanted for the last part. He would have liked Thiago Motta from PSG. Hasn't got him, but other than that, he's got the players he would have liked. And they have to show encouraging signs, and people like Oliver Torres, who I picked out, he had a good start the other day. But these players who are coming in, they have to show that they are up to the challenge of replicating the success what has gone before. The people that like Arda and Miranda have shown, they've left. But the new guys have to come in and they have to show that they're capable of reaching those heights. And that's what has to be done in this first month of the season. You have to see that, Simeone.
So Atletico Madrid will attempt to make another run at a title in a league that has historically been dominated by Barcelona and Real Madrid. And again, Real Madrid off to a rocky start with the draw against Sporting Gijón. You've identified the big match on the weekend. That's the Sunday match. We talked about Valencia trying to hold on here. What other storylines, particularly after 1 week, and maybe it's a matter of seeing these teams kind of coalesce and start scoring goals, which would be nice. What other storylines are sort of dominating discussion in Spain right now? I mean, we've had you and I, David, have had many discussions about the money issues in Spain, certainly the television contracts, the division of the revenue that comes into that league. I know that this is a league that has been sort of keeping an eye on how to market itself better. How are those efforts going? And then, obviously we've had some controversy over the many different areas and conflicts between the Players Association, the league itself, the sporting departments of Spain. Where do all those things stand right now?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, we've got new kickoff times this season, so they have been changed to offer a better product, basically. I mean, now instead of staggering every single game over a different time slot, we've got clashes of games so people can pick games to watch and like that. So it's not staggered and it doesn't feel as long. It doesn't go on as drawn out. So I think that is quite positive in a way. 10 different kickoff times was always going to be a bit of an odd thing. So we've got that, but simple things. I mean, the highlights from the first round of games went uploaded straight away on Sunday evening when they should have been by the official Liga TV account. They have a nice little thing where they put the highlights up and interviews for people to watch no matter where you are. And they haven't done that, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't know whether they're still on holiday or something. So when it comes to marketing your league better, you need things like that running. And so far, there's not much in terms of the players' strike or the standoff without things so far. That there's nothing really kicking about with that. But again, it could raise its head at any point. That's the concern, and it does exist. It is in the background.
This is a question that gets asked a lot, David. But since we have you here, and since we're one match day into the La Liga season, and the Premier League is underway. And, again, we'll have a long Champions League campaign to crown a winner who very possibly could be a Spanish club again, based on the quality of the top couple of teams. I was asked, recently, what's the better league? Is it the Premier League or is it La Liga? And I outlined some of the major differences that as I see them. It's a difficult question. I don't like answering with a flat, it's the Premier League or La Liga, because I think they have different strengths. How would you answer that question for people who might ask you which one is better? Yeah,
it depends which way you look there. I think we have to look at it in two ways. I think in terms of the product and how it looks and how it performs, and the Premier League is fantastic. It's a different world to any other league. I think it's getting hard to compare the Premier League to others because they've got such a huge financial advantage now, and there's big players joining clubs like somebody like Johan Cabaye is joining Crystal Palace, and in Spain, the players like that can't join a Crystal Palace level club. So Premier League, I think there's a big change about there really is with the Premier League's money. It's bringing new players in, and as this TV deal only grows bigger, the next 2 or 3 years are going to be fascinating to see, because I think the Premier League is going to really start to pull away from other leagues. Spain will always try to sell itself, of course, but people will say Messi, Ronaldo, but you need to look deeper than that. If you want to watch quality football, if you want to watch your technical football, then I think Spain's the league. You can get a great game between Levante and Celta Vigo, whereas I think sometimes in the Premier League, I watched Newcastle versus Manchester United the weekend, and it was terrible. It was one of the worst games I've watched in a long time. And that's the concern with it. And I think in La Liga, of course, you get those bad games as well. But I think there's such a great factor about La Liga of watching these Levante teams in Celta Vigo and picking out a player who maybe stands out and who might end up getting a bigger move elsewhere. And as has been seen the last few years, smaller players. I mean, Santi Cazorla was playing at Malaga, Villarreal, and then he went to Arsenal, and obviously he's a Premier League star now. So it's always nice to watch the league and pick somebody out like that. So I think that's the big thing that the league is going for. Whether you've got the time and patience to do that, it's a different issue. But I think it's really good to watch, to find new players, new talent.
Yeah, obviously, the question I was asked was about the Premier League versus La Liga. I'm not leaving out the Bundesliga on purpose. That's obviously an incredible league as well, with a lot of talent. It just wasn't part of my of the question I was asked. And what you brought us to, David, and we'll finish out here, is my question about the continued talent drain from Spain, particularly towards England, where all of that money is being gathered, especially at some of those lower levels. It's mid-level and bottom half teams are spending money in England on a level that teams in Spain simply cannot. Is that going to continue? Does that only get worse with the amount of money that's coming into the English game?
Oh yeah, I think it's just going to get crazy. I think next summer you'll see even bigger bids because the new TV deal kicks in next summer. So clubs in England will have access to that money. There's no extra money coming into Spain from anywhere. There's no extra revenue. A team like Rayo or Sporting aren't going to suddenly get a big gift of money like the promoted teams who are in the Championship currently in England are going to get if they get up. It's just incredible. This TV package just doesn't exist in Spain, and it's strange having to deal with it and having to compete. So Spain just have to be clever. They have to build their squads better. They have to have incredible sporting directors like Monchi at Sevilla, who in Sevilla won the Europa League back to back. An English team hasn't done that. So Sevilla are smarter than an English team. They may not have the money, but they have to be more intelligent, and I think they've shown that. So that's what Spanish clubs have to aspire to.
David Cartlidge, excellent job covering La Liga, Spanish football. Follow him on Twitter, David JACA. He is a regular fixture here at Soccer Morning, and we very much appreciate it. David, thank you so much, and we'll be looking forward to this weekend's matches, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, great joining you again.
There goes David. Good stuff from him. We'll open up the phone lines and talk to you on the other side of a quick break. It's Soccer Morning on WorldSoccerTalk.com. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Strings on a broke guitar.
This Sunday, it's the return of MLS Rivalry Week as the New York Red Bulls take on DC United live on Fox Sports 1 at 7 p.m. Eastern. For a different experience, I'd like to invite you to mute the TV and listen to me on Rabble.tv as I share my thoughts and analysis live during the 90 minutes. With Rabble, the concept is simple. All you have to do is tune into the broadcast on TV, press the mute button, and then head on over to Rabble.tv to listen to the broadcast on your desktop, through your iOS app, and now through your mobile browser. You can join in too by posting your questions
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
All right, we're back on a Tuesday edition of Soccer Morning right here on WorldSoccerTalk.com. This is the portion of the program where we open up the phone lines and you call me up and you talk about whatever's on your mind in the soccer world. 646-832-3909. Lots of good information in that last chat with our friend David Cartlidge. La Liga now underway, so you got everything underway. You got everything started. It's all happening in Europe. We've obviously got the Apertura down in Mexico and an MLS season that's starting to get towards crunch time. So this is the moment. This is the time of year when you're really kind of flooded with soccer. Like, you can't possibly keep up with everything, right? Now, we do our best around here. I'll admit, I get most of my information from the guests we have on this show. I'm the kind of guy who's like, well, I kind of missed what happened in La Liga. I was watching that one Premier League match, or I know this thing that happened, but I missed this other thing. Let's get somebody on who knows what they're talking about and they can inform me. So I'm learning along with you guys. It's like I don't know. It's like an educational program, but that makes it sound boring, and it's not boring at all, is it? This isn't a boring program. It's not. All right, 646-832-3909. You got a couple of CONCACAF Champions League games tonight, including DC United. I know that tomorrow, believe Seattle is into the Champions League. It has a Champions League match. Let me just look at the Champions League schedule in CONCACAF, because I saw some reports out of Seattle that, based on the way things have gone for them recently, that Siggy Schmidt's going to take a weekend side down to wherever their match is. Let me just look at the schedule because I want to make sure I get this right. All right, we've got DC United on Montego Bay tonight. When does Seattle play? Seattle plays Wednesday, tomorrow night against Olympia. So that's a return match against Olympia. And again, the way things have been going for Seattle, and they just lost to RSL on the weekend, Siggy Schmidt is basically going to split his team in two, send a bunch of reserves down to Olympia to play in that match, and focus on the league. And really, you can't blame him. I mean, this isn't one of those situations where you go, not taking the Champions League seriously, rah, rah, rah. No. This is a team that desperately needs to find its footing, lest they end up losing their playoff spot in the league. So I completely understand from Siggy Schmidt's perspective. It's just unfortunate more than anything else. It's just a sad state of affairs that Seattle is where they are in MLS and have lost so many games over the past 2 months, and now must go down to Olympia and play with a weekend side that's probably going. I mean, I'm not saying they're definitely going to get beat, but it's Central America. You're not taking your big guns. It's going to be bad. Just the circumstances will be difficult. Doesn't mean that they won't win. I suppose it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't mean they won't win, but it does make the task a lot more difficult. These teams having to fight on two different fronts, sometimes three, if you consider the U.S. Open Cup, although we only have two teams left in that particular tournament at this point. 646-832-3909. I would just scan my stories here this morning, see what else we have that we can discuss. Again, that Arsenal-Liverpool match yesterday, marked by the fact there were no goals, but also marked by the fact you had some pretty stellar goalkeeping. And Petr Cech is making it understood why Arsene Wenger went out and signed him. He had a bad opening day. There's some questions. What's wrong with Petr Cech? Is this going to be a disastrous signing for Arsenal? And then he does what he did yesterday. I mean, particularly that shot that Coutinho took, trying to curl to the back post. And Cech got, talking about fingertips of fingertips, the smallest amount of a touch to push it onto the bar. Otherwise, that's a goal. And Arsenal probably loses because on the other end they had difficulty putting the ball past Simon Mignolet. So the Premier League underway, getting into the season with Arsenal and Liverpool yesterday. A Monday night football match. Monday night football. We also talk about this Cosmos story and the labor union president pushing for the Empire State Development Commission to approve the stadium there in Elma. This has been so long, and I want this to happen. Let me say this. I think it makes for a very weird, unbalanced situation in NASL when you have a glittering new 25,000-seat stadium for the New York Cosmos, and some other teams are playing in, glorified high school football stadiums, but still, it would be good for the Cosmos. It would be good for NASL. It would certainly put them on the map in a way that no other NASL team is, and that's already the case because they're the New York Cosmos. And I mean, just from a pure soccer fan perspective in the United States, I want to see this thing built. If it's not going to involve public subsidies, then really I don't see a problem. And I don't know why it takes 2.5, 3 years or whatever it is for this commission to make a damn decision. What's the problem? Here's your quote. On behalf of 2.5 million working men and women in New York State, and in solidarity with the Long Island Federation of Labor, I urge you to support New York Cosmos' response to a request for proposal to the Empire State Development Corporation to develop land at the Belmont Park in Elmont. I respectfully request you act as swiftly as possible in approving this project, and by doing so, assure the local community that and the team itself that New York is committed to the Cosmos. I appreciate your time and consideration to this important and timely project. The NYS, New York State AFL-CIO, stands ready to assist in any way we can to help make this a success. I'm guessing that Mr. Salento is the president of the New York State branch of AFL-CIO. How much weight does this actually have? I'm not sure. But it does put it back on the front page. Well, it puts it back in the news, not the front page, but it puts it back in the news. Maybe gooses the decision-making process just a little bit. And again, I don't know why it's taken this long for there to be a decision made. And the Cosmos are now left, and I recently wrote a piece on the Cosmos that got me some heat from people who are Cosmos fans and NASL fans, and that's fine. But in this piece, Seamus O'Brien said that in 5 years, he believed the Cosmos would be playing in their own building, that there would be 18 to 20 teams in the league, and that they would be playing on the highest level of American soccer. In order to make those things happen, this kind of thing's got to get done. I mean, clearly that was part of his vision, is having a stadium for the Cosmos. But if they're going to get 18 to 20 teams, they need more momentum for NASL, and they need to make sure those teams are stable and ready to go. And we talked about, what was it last week, Trevor, that we talked about this story that Rayo Vallecano had bought shares of the Oklahoma City NASL team, a team we had all heard was dead, that Bill Peterson himself had said was a dead project. I don't know where that's going. I know the Virginia Cavalry situation is done and dusted. You do have some potential markets. You do have Jacksonville, who's been a success. You have Miami FC coming in with their stadium situation to be determined. You have Carmelo Anthony announcing the technical director and head coach, the president and technical director for Puerto Rico FC, which I'm going to take a particular personal interest in, and hopefully maybe one day get to Puerto Rico to see this team in person and see because this is a revival, obviously, of Puerto Rican professional soccer where they used to have the Islanders. Now Carmelo Anthony has come in. He signed up Adrian Whitbread as head coach. No, it is head coach. I thought it was president. But Adrian Whitbread as head coach, Neil Sillett as technical director. They're both English. Whitbread comes from many stops in England, but he was also with the Puerto Rico Islanders from 2008 to 2011. He was an assistant with them first before being named to the as the head coach of the Islanders for their first season in the new NASL. Whitbread helped lead the club to the semifinals of the 2008-2009 CONCACAF Champions League and the U.S. Soccer Federation D2 Championship in 2010, which is the pre-NASL league. Now, as for Sillett, again, another Englishman who comes in and will help this team get off the ground. I'm trying to find a little bit about his bio. I don't actually see it in this story that I'm reading, so I'll have to look somewhere else. But in the meantime, this is clearly a big project for NASL. They need stable franchises that can spend enough money to put together quality soccer teams. And their growth is impressive, and there's no doubting that that NASL has thrown some resources at this thing. Now, there are some questions. The continued involvement of Traffic Sports, which may or may not be done, because I believe there's news that the Carolina Railhawks will be transferring ownership away from Traffic Sports. Now, of course, the part of even before the FIFA indictments, it was not the greatest situation that Traffic was so heavily involved in the NASL. Now, with the indictments coming down, they absolutely have to get out of business with Traffic Sports, because that's that group was implicated in the bribery schemes that have hit FIFA in recent times. I'm looking for the story on the Railhawks. I'll have to try to find it. There may or may not be a transfer. We'll get some information on that. But I'm just again looking at the current situation for the NASL. You do the accounting on these teams. The Atlanta Silverbacks more than likely are going to fold or have to move. If they move and find somewhere to play, that's fine. You don't really want to see that, but I don't know how they're going to compete with the MLS team in Atlanta. I don't think that's a wise business decision, even if you are of the opinion that they should stick it out and try to make it work. Carolina, okay, certainly that ownership question, but shouldn't go anywhere as long as they can find somebody to step in. FC Edmonton, a good solid team so far, a couple of years in. Fort Lauderdale, questions over their ownership and direction, but as far as I can tell, everything's reasonably fine there. Indy 11 getting off the ground with a massive amount of support. They've gone through a coaching change this year, but they are in their second season and seem to be doing well enough. Jacksonville Armada is a success so far. Minnesota United is leaving for MLS, provided they get a stadium done. That looks like it's going to happen. So that's -1 on the team ledger for NASL, and a strong team at that. New York Cosmos, we know about them. Ottawa Fury, fine so far. A good expansion choice for NASL. San Antonio, a team that is one of the strongest in terms of support and stadium in the league, but has mentioned MLS as a possibility. There's also a potential sale of that team coming forth. Tampa Bay Rowdies, Bill Edwards there making a splash with the firing of Thomas Roggen and Farouk Qureshi. But at least they have some ambition in Tampa, and Bill Edwards is trying to make a mark there. As I mentioned, Puerto Rico and Miami coming into the league. Where are their other expansion teams? Are they going to go to a place like Chattanooga, which has shown a massive amount of support for an amateur team? Are they going to figure out a deal in San Francisco and put a team in a pocket that allows them to be successful despite the presence of a regional area MLS team in the San Jose Earthquakes? Are they going to try to get into LA, which I think is too crowded a market for them to find success on any real level? Open questions. Bill on Twitter, who gets a stadium first, Cosmos or NYCFC? The way things are right now, Bill, and the progress that the Cosmos have made, at least getting some momentum going now with the president of the New York State AFL-CIO coming out, I think it's the Cosmos. I do. I think it's probably going to end up being the Cosmos. I don't know. I'm sure NYCFC is working behind the scenes, but they are also a lot more limited in their locations. I've said it before. I'll say it again. If NYCFC builds a stadium outside of the 5 boroughs of New York, it's a failure on the part of that team and on MLS. They might still be successful, but I think it's a failure. I think the Cosmos, with a little bit more opportunity to scout locations, with the open wooing of the Brooklyn Borough president, with this bid already in place, with the Empire State Corporation, Development Corporation, that I think they'll probably get it done first. And we'll see how that unbalances things in the New York market. Because as long as the Cosmos are playing at Hofstra, they can sort of be pushed aside by the MLS teams. They can sort of be ignored. I think MLS cares, obviously, but I think they can sort of be like, oh, that's cute. They're in NASL. They've got a big name, but they're playing at a college lacrosse stadium, college football stadium. If they move into their own building, they get that built, that becomes a game changer in the New York market. And maybe we can get Dave Martinez on in the near future to sort of sketch out how that would change things and what this move from the AFL-CIO might mean. 646-832-3909. You guys are extremely lazy on a Tuesday. I get it. Like I said, I didn't start off well today. The voice just did not want to cooperate. The voice was a problem today. Jurgen Klinsmann and the Olympic qualifying team. Obviously, this is not going to be a team he coaches himself. It's going to be coached by Andy Herzog. Is this going to be the thing that he uses as an excuse when this team does not make the Olympics for 2016? I mean, does it seem like he's already laying the groundwork for some excuses? Obviously, we need help, said Klinsmann. We need help from the clubs overseas. We need help from the clubs here in MLS in order to get the players released, especially the Olympic team. Qualifiers start outside of the release dates, so we badly need those players to qualify for Rio de Janeiro. Hopefully, we get the support by all the clubs and get the players in. We want to be in Rio with the Olympic team, and we want to be in Russia 2017 at the Federations Cup. It's going to be an extremely busy time period, and we just hope that we get all the players on board and get the job done. Again, so is this? Do you believe that this is him laying the groundwork for excuses when it doesn't go well, if it doesn't go well, or is this just a fair assessment of the situation? The Olympic qualifiers have always been a problem for getting players released. And you're talking about as America has improved, as the United States national team has improved, and the number of professionals has gotten higher and at a younger age, it creates a problem with release. It creates a problem with call-ups when you have players who you would normally count on at this level who are now fixtures within their teams. I mean, think about a guy like Will Trapp. Will Trapp, who would be a lock for an Olympic team if completely healthy, which he seems to be now, finally, after his concussion, and hope that everything's good on that front. But if Columbus is in a fight to claw their way into a top 2 spot in the Eastern Conference, or just hold on to their playoff spot with a difficult schedule, there is no way that Columbus is going to want to release him for Olympic qualifiers. And then we get into a question, okay, how much does U.S. Soccer lean on MLS to get MLS to lean on the Crew and other teams to release their players? There was actually a solid list over at Pro Soccer Talk. I think I'm not sure who wrote it up. It may have been Joe Prince Wright. But there was a Pro Soccer Talk list of players who are likely to be called up, who would likely to be called up for the Olympic team, who are going to have a problem. Let's take a look at this. This is a good list. I could do this off the top of my head if I really tried. Will Trapp, the Columbus Crew. They've got a game on October 3rd against the Red Bulls. That's outside of that's within the Olympic qualifying tournament, but outside of the FIFA release dates. Rubio Rubin, he's got a game on that same day. So does Matt Miazga. Let me just get rid of that. So does Matt Miazga. So does Gideon Zalalem, as he's on loan at Rangers now. So does Kellen Acosta, not the same day, but that weekend. Tommy Thompson, Luis Gil, Jose Villarreal, Dylan Serna, Fatai Elashi, Tyler Turner, Christian Dean. These are all guys who you might see in Olympic squad who are going to have conflicts. How many of those players can he get released? I think it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be a real problem. All right. We are getting close to wrapping this up. I think we've got a couple of calls coming through. If you guys want to jump in the last couple minutes of the show, it is 646-832-3909. John on Twitter, did you see the Bill Edwards video statement? Qureshi and Rangan had a 5-year plan. Edwards has a 1-year plan. Edwards is a moron if he thinks a 1-year plan makes any sense whatsoever. You want to have consistent success. You want to challenge for championships year in and year out. You let smart soccer people like Farouk Qureshi and Thomas Rangan put a 5-year plan in. That doesn't mean that they want to win they're not going to win a championship until year 5, or that they think they can't win until year 5, but it does mean that they have a longer vision. And when you're an owner and you say, well, we're just going to throw a bunch of money at the problem, and if we don't win championships, everybody gets fired, that's the wrong way to do business. Let's go to Ray in Milwaukee. You're on the air.
Hey, man, do you think Seattle's going to let Ziggy Smith go at the end of the season? I don't see them winning the league, and he's playing with fire, in my personal opinion, with this taking a weakened roster down to Central America, because it's only one team that gets the advance in this new system.
And they've already had a draw with Vancouver to open up the group stage, so they need to win games. You at least need to get a point on the road at Olympia if you're really gonna have a shot at this. I don't think he's playing with fire. I think he's doing the pragmatic thing because he knows that his job depends on the MLS season. I mean, they may want to win the Champions League, Ray, but really they're focused on winning an MLS Cup, which they've never done. I could see.
Right. Well, I don't think they're going to do anyway. So I think this team's in disarray. I don't like advocating for coaches to get fired, but there's times where it's clearly run its course, and I think that maybe even a front office change. Like, they've spent a lot of money, and they're clearly not the LA Galaxy.
No,
so there's a fault somewhere.
I do think that we're closer to Siggy Schmidt losing his job than we've ever been during his tenure. Is there an obvious replacement? Maybe not, but there could be somebody in the pipeline there. There are a couple of names floating around. I mean, Mike Petke is out of a job right now. Not that he's a perfect fit for Seattle, but there are at least some names who have had some success in this league who are bouncing around. You could always try to make a big splash with a foreign name. I think you're right. I think that I'm not saying that he's going to get fired, and I'm definitely not advocating for him to lose his job right now. But I think that if you take everything that's on the table for them, you have to imagine that he's closer now to being fired than ever before. Or, we get to the end of the season, they either crash out of the playoffs, or if they, God forbid, they fail to make the playoffs, the Seattle Sounders and Siggy Schmidt have agreed to mutually part ways. That's what we might get.
That's what I kind of think so too. But that just really means the coach is getting fired. You can go out here anytime. I don't. That's just a nice way of saying we're firing you.
Oh, absolutely. Ray, I appreciate the call. You got anything else?
No. Have a great day.
All right, man. Good stuff. Ray from Milwaukee, who absolutely needs a shirt number. I got to give him a shirt number. Let's go to Scott in New York. You're on the air.
Hi. This is Scott Brooklyn. Quick comment. Whenever you mention Preki, my ear always rings because I'm originally from Sacramento. And I always wonder to what extent him leaving might say something about whether Sacramento is going to be going to the MLS anytime soon. It seems strange if he had an expectation of that and he would still leave, especially with nothing coming up apparently.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing to consider. They've made such a big push for MLS. They seem so ready. There's lots of opinion out there that MLS just needs to go ahead and commit to Sacramento because they're an automatic success out of the gate. And if that was going to be the case, why would Preki leave if he thought there was a real chance of going up? I mean, you have to imagine he took that job with the notion that they might go up eventually anyway, and he could get back into MLS. I'm starting to really believe, Scott, that maybe Preki got conned. Like, I'm really starting to wonder if Preki got or lied to or promised something that ultimately somebody reneged on.
No, yeah, I mean, that probably isn't the case. And I mean, because again, it seems very odd. But I mean, with that also said, I think he has a vacation for a little bit. And I'm sure once MLS is over, there's going to be enough positions open for him.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully he'll get something there.
Preki to Seattle. We just figured that out. Thanks for the call, Scott. I appreciate it, man. There you go.
But I was actually calling for another quick reason. Let's just talk about FIFA real quick.
All right.
If I'm not mistaken if it was over the weekend or if it was on Monday, but they had the head of the compliance committee kind of take some, pot shots at the United States and talk about how Blatter is not been involved in the corruption or anything like that. And then as I read, it sounds like Blatter was also on the BBC yesterday. I don't know if you got up on that at all.
The chairman of the reform committee is clearly a FIFA company guy. He defended Sepp Blatter. Then he took a shot and said, Americans don't even care about soccer there. It's a game. It's an ethnic game for girls in school. Then you had the story I saw today, the quotes from Sepp Blatter, when talking about the allegations that there is rampant corruption. That's not true. This has been created. The institution is not corrupt. There is no corruption in football. There is corruption with individuals. There is not a general organized corruption. It is with people. The institution FIFA is not corrupt. It's not the institution. That's why I can't understand why the world's media say FIFA is corrupt. Okay. All right. I know what I have done, what I have not done. I have my conscience, and I know I'm an honest man. I am clean. I am not a worried man. That's Sepp Blatter. And again, I've said this before, Scott. I think there is a real possibility that, legally speaking, Sepp Blatter is clean. I really think that Sepp Blatter may be innocent when it comes to the notion that he has taken bribes or paid out money. I think Sepp Blatter is just the man at the top of a very corrupt pyramid. That doesn't necessarily mean he's done anything wrong. That doesn't mean, though, he's not complicit. And that's the thing that boggles most people's minds. Like, even if you could imagine Sepp Blatter hasn't done anything wrong or taken any kickbacks or taken any bribes, at the very least, he stood there and watched while everybody else was making money off the game. And he, in order to maintain his power, just let it happen.
And what I find interesting about this is that it doesn't sound like he was, caught, on his way going from, a hotel to a limo. This was a prepared interview. And with the head of the compliance committee also talking this week, I wonder if this is kind of part of a plan where now that all of the domestic leagues have started, FIFA is going to start kind of having, the powers that be are going to start having a bigger presence, because now they're not going to be the focal point of the news cycle. Mm-hmm. And so now they can kind of filter a little better without people talking about it all day, every day. And it's also interesting that, you even have a head of compliance who, of course, is, like a FIFA stooge to some extent. You're going to have the messages about Blatter and less about the FIFA as an institution itself, which also just, it's interesting to see how they're starting to message things out and when they're doing it.
It does. I mean, it certainly seems like, based on these comments and what you said, what we heard yesterday from Gerard, that they are trying to separate Sepp Blatter from the rest of this, and maybe protect Sepp Blatter as they move forward. I mean, clearly this ethics committee is going to be a farce. We can see that. As for again, the institution of FIFA is absolutely corrupt. I mean, this notion, this division that Sepp Blatter is trying to put in between the people and the institution is ridiculous, because the people are the institution, and we know that. So I don't know what happens moving forward. I mean, Blatter's going to step down, I guess, come next spring. The time between now and then is going to be extremely interesting. And maybe you're right. This team does seem coordinated. We just don't know what impact it's going to have. I mean, everybody has. I think the established opinion on Sepp Blatter is not going to change. Whether or not this means they can actually foster some anti-American sentiment and get him some leeway, or get FIFA, the organization, some leeway. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, because also you wonder who they're messaging to in that as well. Because it's obviously not. The United States, I mean, we might have, brought prosecution, but I don't think that we're the audience. I mean, we're one vote out of everything. And I'm also just as a quick aside as well, I'm curious if this is going to be coordinated with Platini as well in his run, or if he's going to be kind of separate from this messaging campaign, how those two are going to converge as well. Yeah,
absolutely. We'll see what happens. I mean, clearly those two guys, thanks for the call, Scott, two guys who were once very tight, not so tight anymore, but Platini seems to be the guy next in line. Again, that's very much business as usual, status quo. It is. If Michel Platini wins the FIFA presidency. All right, let's get out of here. Thank you very much to David Cartlidge for his insight into La Liga after one match day so far this season. Thank you to the callers. Make sure you go to backheel.com/store, buy yourself a mug. We've got new videos every day, things happening over the Soccer Morning YouTube page, so go find that as well. We'll put that out on the Twitter feed. Follow us on Twitter at Soccer Morning, and if you have SiriusXM, go join us on SiriusXM FC in less than an hour. We'll talk to you over there, and I'll talk to you tomorrow right here on WorldSoccerTalk.com. See you later.
Did my invitations disappear? What I put my